Nammo Phat, good morning. Thank you for joining me today for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The second wonderful precept. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, I vow to cultivate loving kindness and learn ways to work for the well-being of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I will practice generosity by sharing my time, energy, and material resources with those who are in real need. I'm determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others. I will respect the property of others, but I will prevent others from profiting from human suffering or the suffering of other species on earth. Today's reading from Kamma and the End of Kamma by Ajahn Sucitto is Unseating the Inner Tyrant. Normally, as a negative mood arises, it catches hold and infects the whole mind. We become that mood with its characteristic form. This is the big weakness of the undeveloped mind. It makes how I feel into who I am. There's a grasp, a contraction, and we get pulled into the story, get mesmerized by it, and rehash it time and time again. We fixate on the details of, she said this 5 years ago, and then yesterday she did this. Or we go into, I'm always anxious, and am never going to make it again. But when there is great heart, it can meet that piece of narrative without being sucked into it. And from there, a skillful response rather than an involvement or a reaction can occur. This is vital because trying to change your negative mind state more directly isn't always the remedy, because it's not always your karma in the first place. You may be carrying psychological patterns that are not the result of what you've done, but of what you've had done to you or of how you've been brought up. If you were bullied at school or have been discriminated against because of ethnic background or gender, the only thing you may well have done is take on the negative karma of other people. In that case, what you need to do is not just to address the states of insecurity or the sense of intimidation or resentment, but more fundamentally, the view that this karmic patterning is who I am. If you address the way that you've taken it on and continue to hold it as an aspect of your identity, the mind state falls away by itself. Any review of psychological patterns tends to address the inner tyrant. You've probably met this one. It is the partner of the afflicted self-view. The tyrant is the nagging voice that will always demand you achieve impossible standards of perfection, never offers congratulation or appreciation, exaggerates shortcomings, indicts you with total responsibility for events that you may have been only part of, and based on this, delivers indifference, scolding, and punishment. Sometimes the tyrant offers just a cold, condescending self-regard. Sometimes the tyrant keeps urging you to do more, to forgive others, to pull yourself together, and to take responsibility, advice which may have its place, but is completely inappropriate when it comes to shifting self-view. It just entrenches the belief that this stuff is what I am. That is the weight of patterns and programs which we're trying to shift. and it comes from the involuntary action of adopting psychological patterns as myself. Stupid, but we all do it. There's always the belief that I'll find one that is satisfying and fits. The tyrant's actions, which urge you to adopt punishing programs, come from the loss of empathy. The scenarios are exaggerated, the verdicts severe, the punishments only make matters worse and heal nothing. But the tyrant can't operate any other way. The tyrant is trapped. It is a piece of stuck vipaka. We're not born with that, but develop it because of a confused, non-empathic human environment. The social need to compete with others and to avoid being second-rate doesn't allow for having empathy with what we or others are actually experiencing. Under this pressure, the mind splits into how I'm feeling and what I'm supposed to be. Thus, empathy and wholeness get jettisoned in favor of achievement and performance. The social pressure gets held in place by being internalized as two selves. The inner tyrant forms as the agent of the pressure, and its victim is little me. As long as we keep being little me, the victim, we support the fragmentation and, of course, the tyrant. Sometimes little me rebels or seeks affirmation in order to become big me, and so the tyrant has made us create another self-image, which can't sustain itself without continual ego food. So we have to drop the image-making tendency and instead restore the empathic patterns of balanced mind. And this is through the skillful Kamma of being with and feeling with the energy and the feel of a thought or a mood or a pattern, rather than following or believing it. This is why we need great heart. It's particularly important to cultivate appreciative joy. When the heart is great in that sense, it can hold the tyrant in check and scan past his/her narratives to a deeper sense of its own healthy awareness. It can bring to mind the sense that I am greater than this tyrant. I don't owe them any favors. I don't need this stuff. I value just being here, even with my bleakness or insecurity. I can be with that and have compassion for that, and I don't even have to change it. Because just to abide in compassionate awareness, not fixing, not blaming, and not changing anything, this itself is good. You are not acting from a contracted, needy little me, and then transformation can occur. You stop being little me, you step out of its stories, and you can listen to the tyrant's ranting and grumbling with mindfulness, compassion, and eventually, humor. This way of deconstructing the tyrant is completely by inhabiting him/her. That is, having established great heart to be able to witness the complaining and hardness, you shift to experiencing the tyrant's program from first-person perspective. Rather than have the tyrant as referring to you, you feel into and inhabit the program. Really listen to the tyrant's voice and imagine what he/she looks like. Imagine what it would feel like to be the tyrant. Then, adopting the tyrant's point of view, feel out what you want. You hate all these silly moods and weaknesses. Fine. Be with and feel that energy. You want to control everyone and everything. Fine. Be with and feel with that. Feel its energy in your body until there is an empathy that suffuses the whole program. With this, little me fades out, and as it does so, the objects of the tyrant's wishes and finally the tyrant itself deconstructs. Crazy as it may sound, this process brings a very deep and powerful learning into our reflexes, an experience of dropping self-forms for Dhamma. And in this, what is so often needed is not to be someone with an answer, but to unify around empathy, because a loss of empathy and unity were the primary causes of the whole problematic scenario. Then, when you offer yourself a collected and empathic energy, your own naturally great heart is returned to you. May I be well. May all beings be well. May I be happy. May all beings be happy. May I be peaceful. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for spending this morning with me.